All right, today we're talking about a pretty incredible place, Azerbaijan. It's a nation of ancient fire and modern oil, sitting right at that fascinating crossroads where Europe and Asia meet. So, let's start with that famous nickname. You've probably heard it called the Land of Fire, right? But what does that actually mean? Where does that come from? Well, the name itself is our biggest clue. It comes from the ancient Persian Atur Patakan, which basically means protected by the holy fire. This is a direct throwback to the region's long history with Zoroastrianism, a religion where fire is this hugely important symbol of purity. So, you see, it's not just some poetic nickname, it's baked right into the country's identity. And you really can't get a feel for the Azerbaijan of today without digging into its past. I mean, this is a land that has been claimed by some of the world's biggest empires, and every single one of them left its mark. Its history is just this story of constant change. For centuries, it was part of different Persian empires. That's where those deep Zoroastrian roots come from. Then, in the 1800s, it gets handed over to the Russian Empire. Then there's this incredible but super short-lived moment of independence in 1918, which was then swallowed up by the Soviet Union until independence was finally restored in 1991. It's a classic story of a borderland in flux. But let's pause on that first short-lived republic for a second, because it was a huge deal. In just 23 months, the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic became the very first secular democracy in the Muslim world. And get this, it was also the first Muslim-majority nation to grant women equal political rights. I mean, that's just incredibly progressive for its time. So, with all that history in the background, what does the country actually look like today? Let's break it down. The people, the land, and of course, the resources. First up, the people. The country is overwhelmingly ethnic Azerbaijani. We're talking almost 95%. But it's also home to this interesting mix of minority groups like the Lezgins, Talish, and Russians, which makes total sense when you remember its history as a major crossroads. And the land itself? Wow. It is a place of wild contrasts. You've got the towering Caucasus Mountains, the shores of the massive Caspian Sea, and here's a crazy fact for you. Nearly half of the entire world's mud volcanoes are right here. It's a country where you can find 9 of the planet's 11 climate zones. Just incredible. And all that diverse geography holds some serious wealth. With a GDP estimated at $272 billion, its economy is pretty substantial, and it's overwhelmingly powered by what's bubbling up from under the ground. And that brings us to, well, the central puzzle of modern Azerbaijan. It's this constant push and pull between its vast natural wealth and its really complicated political landscape. Here's the key thing you have to grasp. Oil and natural gas aren't just a part of the economy here. For all intents and purposes, they are the economy. About 2/3 of the whole country is rich in these resources, and that wealth has funded pretty much all of its modern development. This all leads to a pretty stark contrast, a real tale of two descriptions. Officially, on paper, Azerbaijan is a semi-presidential republic, but in practice, many international observers will tell you it operates much more like an authoritarian regime or even a hereditary dictatorship. That's a huge gap between theory and reality. So why hereditary? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Since 1993, power has stayed within a single family. First with Heydar Aliyev, who was a leader back in the Soviet days, and since 2003 with his son, Ilham Aliyev. Now, as you can imagine, this kind of power dynamic has drawn a lot of international scrutiny. The ruling party and the Aliyev family have faced accusations of authoritarianism, and there's been consistent criticism about the country's human rights record, especially when it comes to things like media freedom. Okay, so putting the politics and the petroleum aside for a moment, let's talk about the culture, because this is where things get really fascinating. It's this incredible melting pot, shaped by centuries of influences coming from every direction imaginable. Think of it like a cultural mosaic. You've got these deep Persian roots that you can see in holidays like Nowruz. There's a strong Turkic identity you can hear in the language and the music. The Soviet legacy left behind a strong tradition of secularism and an emphasis on education. And today, you see this growing influence from the modern West in everything from pop music to architecture. But even with all this change, Azerbaijan holds on tight to its ancient traditions. Mugam, which is its really complex, beautiful form of folk music, and the incredible art of carpet weaving are both so significant that UNESCO has actually recognized them as masterpieces of our shared world heritage. That's a big deal. And then on the complete flip side, you have this massive embrace of modern pop culture. Case in point, back in 2011, they won the Eurovision Song Contest. You know, that giant, glittery, pan-European music competition. And they didn't just win. They proudly hosted the whole spectacle in Baku the very next year. You can literally see this contrast just by looking at the architecture. You've got ancient sites like the 12th century Maiden Tower standing in the same city as the futuristic, flickering flame towers. It's like history and the future are having a constant, very visible conversation right in front of your eyes. So, what are we left with? A nation defined by ancient fire but fueled by modern wealth. A culture with deep, powerful traditions that's also racing toward a hyper-modern future. And that leaves us with the big question, right? How will Azerbaijan balance these powerful forces? And what does the future really hold for the Land of Fire?